Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Math 2. And we're going to talk about Objective 2, which is translations and reflections. Moving on from Objective 1, where we learned about lines and angles. So let's get right to it. We're going to learn about two transformations today. And these two transformations, terminology, words, they're very important. So our two transformations are 1, translation, 2, reflection. Translation, movement in any direction without change of size or orientation. And a reflection is a mirrored image about a central line. All right, so a lot easier viewed than read. All right, so here is an example of a translation. And to add a little bit of vocabulary to what we know is we can call this basically our pre-image or our original. All right, so you can call that pre-image. You can also call it the OG, the original, right? And this one right here, this blue one, is going to be my image. All right, and not because I chose it like that, but this was given. So if this is where I started with, let's say I started with the pink one, then the blue one, you would call it the image because it is a shifted version of that same figure. So we call that the image. All right, now it's pretty simple to tell that every point from my pre-image has been shifted 5 units left. And well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units left and 1 unit up. All right, so 1 unit up. All right, and that is a translation. It basically moves left, right, up, or down. Okay, now a good way of expressing that is if we say that our pre-image has points labeled X, Y. Now this is important. This is very important. If our pre-image has points X, Y, then we can say that our image, every point, instead of being X, well, it's really, I took away 5 from X. It's really going to be X minus 5. And my Y's are going to be 1 unit greater. So I'm going to call those Y plus 1s. And that expresses every corresponding point. By corresponding, I mean matching point between the pre-image and the image. So that's just some terminology for a very simple concept, but the correct terminology that we use. All right. Now, continuing. What about a reflection? So reflection's a little bit more intricate. All right, so here we have once again a pre-image, all right, in pink, and my corresponding blue image. And what I did is I went ahead and found this line of reflection. All right, that's my line of reflection. A couple things to notice about the line of reflection. This line of reflection is what you call a perpendicular. All right, you can see how it's perpendicular to these segments that join corresponding points. All right, it is a perpendicular bisector. Bisector, meaning that between my points, my corresponding points, this line cuts my segment directly in half. Directly in half. All right, so that is how this works. Okay. For it to be a perpendicular bisector. So that one cuts it in half. It cuts this segment in half, and it cuts this third segment in half. All right. One last thing that is worth discussing. So that's a perpendicular bisector. Once again, it is perpendicular and it joins corresponding points and cuts them in half. We can also say, well, by the way, speaking of image and pre-image, if these are my points A, B, C, then I need to correctly label this as A prime, B prime, and C prime. Okay, that's a little extra information for you. And last, every line has an equation. So we're going to go y equals mx plus b. And let's see the relationship right here. Well, y equals mx plus b. It looks like my slope is I go up 2 units, left 1. So that is 2x. My y-intercept is -1. So we say this is y equals 2x minus 1. That's a little math 1 review. I want you to notice something. Take a look at these lines that we drew a second ago joining corresponding points. All right. Notice how they're all parallel. All right. That's good. Now in math 1, you learned that if lines are parallel, then they all have the same slope. Let's take a look at that slope. So I'm going down 1, right 2. That is inverted from going up 2, right 1. All right. So therefore, the slope of these lines is -1/2 because you're going down 1, right 2. Take a look at that. That's something that's worth observing. Look at how these slopes are perpendicular. Perpendicular again means opposite reciprocal slopes. And that's the lesson for today.